Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Lycan DM's Craft. Or the Lycan DM's Workshop. I keep saying that. A little throwback to the godfather of the craft, DM Scotty. Thank you for making it so us DMs can show what we do at home for the hobby. Uh, Shout out to the Tabletop Crafters Guild, which I've been a part of for a while. And a shout out to all of the forefathers of the tabletop crafting community for all that you've done and making streams like this possible. So today we're going to be working on ruins. Now, we started with these bases, and we are going to put some walls up on these and make them more 3D. And we're going to make them accessible. And by that, I mean some of the walls are going to be quite crumbly, and that's going to allow us to give us the more 3D effect because the way the walls won't be tall everywhere will allow for a lot of customization, a lot of modularity, and a lot of gameplay. So let's go ahead and jump onto the tabletop. So today we'll be working with a few things. We'll be working with our what do you call this? This isn't cardstock. This is chipboard. This is the kind of stuff you get at the back of a legal pad. You can get this in a bunch of sheets. I believe they're 12 by 12. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them all that. I don't have an affiliate link. I should probably get one set up. But we're going to be working on two of these today. So we're going to be working on this old farmhouse, and we're going to be working on this old tower. So the cool thing about this old tower is it's going to feature a partial second layer, which we will get to. But first, let's start off with the basic. Let's start off with this farmhouse. So the next material we are going to be working with is cardboard. Now, one thing you want to do is remove all the tape. Tape, you can't paint tape. So we are going to stick with this. Now, I'm going to cut it down these seams because, one, we don't need it to be that big anyway. But secondly, it's just going to give us something more manageable to work with. Oh, you know, why don't I put on some music? There we go. Something to listen to while we're doing this. It's one sheet. A few passes is all it takes. Don't want to go crazy on this stuff. Take your time. Alright, now, we're going to take some measurements. So, normally when I do walls for different things, I do 2-inch walls. Now, a 2-inch wall would get us about that big. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go 2-inch walls. So first, I'm going to mark that 2 inches on one side and 2 inches on the other. Now let's see what else we can get out of this. So there's another 2 inches there, and that gives us a full. We can get 3 sets of walls out of this one piece, which is nice. And because these are ruins, they don't have to be perfect either. I think I'm going to lower that music just a little bit. It's a little loud. Let me know how it sounds on your end. There. I think that's a little bit better. Alright, now, we're going to take our knife. And we're going to take our ruler. And this has a nice metal edge. I like that. And I'm just going to score it a couple times. And then I'm going to go in, and once it's scored, you can easily follow along that track. First set of walls. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Because we're going to be tearing pieces off this. So it's going to be quite all right. Now, I will point out one thing, and that's where the corrugation is. So I have the corrugation. We're cutting against the corrugation. So it's like a piece of meat, if you will. You want to slice against the grain, so that way it's tender. No, we want to cut against the grain because this is going to be more structurally, there's more structural integrity this way. So now we are going to make a few measurements. So I have these, show up a little closer. When I measured these out, I made sure the corners were squared off. So a full quarter inch on both sides. That will give me a good measure on each side to say, okay, well, this length here is 6.5 inches. So I'm going to need one piece that's 6.5 inches going that way. And then I can measure from here. And I'll need 4 this way. And then 2 this way, and so on and so forth. So we are going to find that first long measure, that nice 6.5 inches. Let's start this way. Now, one thing you have to be careful of when doing this is that these ends probably aren't square. And because of that, if you measure from here to here, you're not going to get an accurate measurement. But these lines on here, the corrugation lines, see if I can get a better zoom in and focus here. There we go. So each one of these corrugated lines that are on here is straight. And you can make sure that that is a good point to measure from. So when I'm measuring from the side, I'm not measuring from the cut edge. I'm measuring from the point that basically where that frayed edge turns into a solid corrugation. Corrugated line. So we are going to zoom out just a little bit. Oh, perfect. Okay. So now that we have that measurement, we are going to cut. As you can see, it's a lot easier to cut that way. So now that we have our first piece, we are going to take our trusty Surebonder glue gun, and we are going to put down a line of glue. Now, I can already tell this is getting short, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a glue stick ready. I am all out of long glue sticks, so I'm going to be changing these more often. I'm going to stick one in there just for stability's sake. And we are going to make a little zigzag. We're going to cover that full area. And don't be afraid to go a little further in than you need to. What you get will get... Oh, and don't be afraid to put as big... You don't want to get too big of a glob, but don't be afraid to get big globs on there. Because whatever gets up into the corrugation will help add to the security, or the structural integrity. Alright. And it's okay if you get a little bit in the front, because that is also going to add to the integrity. And I'm going to skip this first square. I'm going to start the first little square. And I'm going to go in on the inside. And I'm just going to give it a little bead of glue and spread that out. And that's going to be covered with rubble and debris and all sorts of other stuff. So I'm not going to worry about the final appearance when it comes to that, because it'll be covered. But once again, it'll add to the structural integrity. A little bit will be stuck on the outside. That's fine. Just pull it away once it's dry. And if you get a little bit like this that's kind of pulled out, just take your hot glue gun. Take that tip. Just melt it in there, just kind of like what we did when we did those trees, and we did the bases of the trees. Just go ahead and blend it in. Now, hot glue is paintable. It'll show up a little translucent, but if you put a primer on it, it'll get a good coat. So now I'm going to check out this piece, because I have a feeling... Oh, we are so close. Okay. So I'm only going to go... Now, we're measuring from the... now, this isn't an exactly 1/4 inch thick. Double corrugated cardboard is, and that would be nice, but I don't have any, unfortunately. So this is only about 1/8 of an inch thick. So there's going to be a little space on the inside, but that's okay, because once again, that bead of hot glue will fill in that space. So, this isn't going to be exactly 4 inches. It's going to be 4 and 1/4. Now, we're going to go in 1/4 because we're going to have that same problem here. Let me turn this around a little bit. We're going to have this, we're going to go 4 and 1/4 because we're going to have that same problem along this edge where it's not going to fill in that 1/4 inch totally. So we're going to go measure out 4 and 1/4. Now, another way of doing this is filling in the parallel ones first, and then filling in the ones in between to make sure those gaps are filled. But since we're working with hot glue, we can always fill the gaps. But then again, also these are ruins, they can have cracked corners. So we'll get to that in a minute. We're going to dry test it. That means we're going to hold it up into the space before we glue it in to see how it works. And yeah, that looks like it's going to go good. We have that little 1/8 of an inch on this edge. That's free. So we're going to go and we are going to put down that nice layer of glue. Now, I have a little bump here, so I'm going to try to make that on top, because that little dip will help, isn't going to glue securely, and also it'll work out for the edging. So, 2 things I will note here. 1, I have covered up 2 spots that I'm going to make note of. 1 is that there is, let me show it here, on this space, a window. This is why I made this big circle here in this outer square. So I am going to mark out a space where we're going to make a window. Just a circle for now. And over here, we have a crumbled door. So I'm going to make just a zigzag, just to show where it is. Now, 2 ways of doing this. 1, do it this way, cut it, and then take it off, which is what I'm going to do, and there's a reason behind that. And 2 is to measure that out first. And we'll do that probably over here when we get to the smaller side, because it'll be easier to do over there. So, I am going to cut off this zigzag. And the reason I did it this way is because when I come in, I want this to be a somewhat uniform crumble as I cut through this. So I wanted to kind of visualize it first. So here is my space. And I don't want this to go down all the way because I do want a spacer. This is supposed to be just a crumbled wall that fell out. So I want there to be a little bit on the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and tear this. And I am beating down a little bit of that cardboard into somewhat of a threshold. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue in that little bit of a threshold. And that's just to hold it down in place. I'll show you what we did there. So now I'm going to worry about the sides, because the sides are too straight. So, bring out my scissors. Scissors are a little bit better for this. Actually, I got something I just thought of. An old pair of fabric scissors. Now, these are the ones that have that crimped edge. And I'm going to try this out just to see what it's going to look like. It's a little too uniform, but it's something to think of for the future. It's a little experiment I was thinking of. So we're going to take our regular scissors, and we're going to trim down that edge. And we're just going to go, and we're going to make little cuts and divots and things of that sort. So a nice rough edge. Kind of hard to do this where you can see me. Okay. So it's just a rough edge. And now I'm going to use this for something interesting. And this is where we get to our third material. Corkboard. So this corkboard is also measured at 2 inches. And actually, what we're going to do is we're going to break up some chunks of this. There. That should be good. And we are going to glue them in to inside of this corrugated spot. So we're going to fill up that corrugation a little bit at a time with some hot glue. And we are going to stick in these broken pieces of corkboard. Might need a little more hot glue. It's the way it's starting to look. Now, the way this is starting to look is like the wall on the outside, whatever was there, plaster probably, has broken away, given this rough edge, and the inside of the wall is starting to stick through. Now, on this side of the wall, it's in just a little bit. It's in towards that. Now, this is 1/4 of an inch thick. So there's a little bit of extra sticking through. And that's alright, because we're going to use that as extra security. We're going to take that bead of hot glue, and we're going to run it around that inside bit. And just to make it just that little bit extra secure. Now, I'm doing this with the door now because it's going to be easier before I put on all the rest of the walls. Because I'm going to do this along the top as well. Now I'm going to start with the other side. I'm just kind of fitting it into that corrugation. Yeah, this would be a whole lot easier with double corrugated cardboard, but use what you got. Double corrugated cardboard is the kind of stuff that comes in like big packages, like refrigerators and things like that. And once we have those in place, we're going to do the same thing. I'm also going to put a bead of glue along this inner line here. Whoops, I just tore that apart. And that is what we look like from the outside so far with our crumbling doorway. So far, so good. Now, because this corner here is doesn't have a line of corrugation going through it. It's not as secure as I would like it to be. So, because there's a hole here at the top, I'm going to fill that little hole with some hot glue. I'm just going to add it in little by little, and that's going to push the hot glue down until it starts coming through the top. And I'm going to leave it there just for a little extra security. Okay, now we can move on. The window we're going to do a little differently. The window I am going to wait till the end. I suppose I could cut it. I'll show you another one, yeah. Because this is another way to do it. Another way of doing it is cutting it before I cut it out. I'll show you both ways now. So once again, 4 1/4. 4 1/4. We're measuring once again from that line. Hey, I'm doing good. How you been? Thank you to everyone who watches and comments. So, got some wisps. Problem with hot glue is always the wisps. Always have a trash can nearby. So, first method. Cutting the window out, right? So this one, I'm going to crumble from the top. We're just going to go in. And yes, I'm using a sawing motion just to get to that first top layer. And I'm going to come in. I'm going to get into where I want to be. About there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. If you come in on an angle, it's a little easier to get that first initial saw action in there. You can wiggle your knife. But either way, the sawing action, using that full length of the blade is what helps. So, I gotta turn it this way because I'm right-handed. Excuse me. Try to, yeah, there way. I'll show you that way. So there's a piece of corrugation in there. It's gonna make it a little difficult. So now we have our window that doesn't have a top on it. Now, what are we going to be using for this window? I'll show you what. Remember in earlier episodes when I said I was going to save the grating that was behind those ferns? This stuff. It's like granny grating. We are going to use this in here, and it's going to look like... I'm going to pick off some of this stuff. But when it gets to the areas that are very... That's what it's going to look like. And that's what I want. So it looks like overgrown windows. Never throw anything away. Well, you know, sometimes you gotta. But save what you can. So back to this. So this is the next one. So this one, I am going to cut the window out. The window is in this square here. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to make this kind of an arched window, I think. Yeah, we're going to go like that. And then, yeah, we're just going to eyeball it, cut it out. When you get to the corrugated parts, it's a good idea to saw a little bit and just push the knife in very carefully, very slowly to kind of cut through that corrugation. You always want to cut carefully and slowly and with not a lot of force. That's how you slip. How accidents happen. Just go around nice and slowly. Always cut away from yourself. We're just going to clean up that inner edge a little bit. And once again, I'm not going for perfection. Alright, there we go. Now, I'm going to do this on an angle. And yeah, I'm going to glue this to the inside. So, I need a nice piece. Let's see. I'm going to say... Yeah, we'll go with that there. I'm going to take my scissors. I'm just going to cut through. Leaving just enough that this will work. Okay. So, how is this going to work? Or take our pencil. We're going to move some of this corrugation around in here. We're just going to push it around, make some space. Kind of pushing our way through. A dull pencil is good for this sort of thing. Now, here's the fun part. We're going to fit it in there. What side you put it in, or which facing which side, doesn't really matter. I guess technically I could put in 2 layers of this, but I don't think I'd like the way that would look. And we're just going to nestle it in there. Now, we could put some... we're going to use our pencil again to kind of ease it in there a little bit more. We could use some resin or many things. There's many things you can use. Glue to sort of fill in and give it a glass look, but I don't want it to look like glass. I want it to look like this is... The glass has been long since busted out. And we're just going to put a bead of glue in there on both sides. We're just going to press that down a little bit. And that is the end product. We have an overgrown, busted out, fenced window. And now we're going to glue that in. So once again, that nice layer of glue. So it looks like we're only out of time to probably just finish this one today. But even if that's the case, you know, we're showing off a couple different methods of how to do things. Now, we do have an alternative here. Because the way I glued this in, the more whiter side is facing out. So, if you remember, we saved all those scrap pieces. Well, this is where those scrap pieces are going to come in handy. Some of this stuff is good for the ground, but some of the stuff I'm just going to pull away. I'm just going to put a little Elmer's glue all. Put the camera up a little bit. I'm just going to put a couple dabs here and there. Especially around the frame too. And I'm just going to take some of this loose stuff and just sprinkle it on. Whatever sticks will stick. There we go. Nice overgrowth on the outside of the window. Sweet. So, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Except the other side, it's going to be a little different because this side's going to be broken. Let's see. Yes, the problem is you have to do this from an angle. We're just going to do the same thing again. Just kind of push that corrugation in the bottom aside. Once again, it's okay if you get a few little tears, because this is, you know, this is a ruin. Excellent. Alright, now we just have to glue that into place. So we're going to start on the inside. That bead of glue down in there, along the outside, and it'll probably move a little bit, and that's fine. Just We gotta make sure we fix it before the glue dries. And as long as the glue is nice and hot, you know, we got some working time. Alright. Put that back down into place. And now once again, we're going to use our scissors to make a little broken piece. Moving right along. Once again, I'm going to use a few dabs of glue. Mostly around the top, because I want to kind of hide that seam. And I'm just kind of manipulating this into place. Some of it's sticking more to my fingers than it is to the window. Okay. Now, the big walls are done. I could use this little piece for right here, and it wouldn't be that big of a problem. It certainly fits, but I need it to go just a little further. It would fit on this side, but I think I want a tall wall there, so I'm just gonna hold that off to the side. We'll see if we need it. We probably will need it here. But yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So let's do this spot here first. So I gotta measure it from the inside of this line all the way to the edge. So that's 2 1/4 I gotta go. I'm gonna choose the straighter of the sides. Like I said, it definitely gets to the point where your lines aren't straight. That's okay. You just got to make sure you keep an eye on where that corrugation is. Excellent. We'll do the same thing again where we put this beaded down. Now this is going to be a solid wall, so we don't have to worry about anything here. And I'm going to put a bead of glue along that inside. I'm trying to get both in the corner and in between. So I'll show you how I do that from the outside. Basically, I separate it a little bit, and I just put enough glue that it rides along that inner edge. And then just hold them together for a minute. Voila. Now, I should have a little piece here going up, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the, yeah. I always forget the name of stuff. Corkboard. So I'm going to see how much of a space I need there. And I need a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to see how much a 1/4 inch can get me. And it doesn't have to be exactly a 1/4 inch. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a straight line. Now this is another material that you want to, so you don't tear it, that you want to go slowly through with a sharp blade. So that way you don't tear it and you get a nice straight even line. So here we go. Glue on this side. Glue down here. We're putting it on this. Now, somebody might say, now, this corkboard is not a very good material because it breaks apart so easily. And yes, when we get into the next episode where we talk about more finishing touches to this sort of stuff, we'll get into how to make this a little more stable. And actually, I don't want to make it stable just yet because I want to look at it and see if there are any pieces that I want to chip off. And there is. I think this is too wide right here. Just make a cut and a tear. Cut and a tear. There. I like that. That right there is going to be part of our doorway. Now let's work on the other side. So we need another 2 1/4 line. So you can almost see when you're making your lines, like whether it's in between 2 corrugations or on a corrugation. You know, if you bend it a little bit, you can see them a little bit better. Like there's this line here. So like that is in between a corrugation. So that's always one way to see if it'll how straight of a line your drawing is. And like I said, these don't need to be perfect because it is a ruined building. Alright, same thing again. We're going to put down that line of glue all the way to the edge. And you know, we'll just go ahead and put it up this wall. You can do it ahead of time, it's fine. I'm just going to slide that into place. And we're just going to put that line up the middle. Nice and secure. Ooh. And stuck to my finger. Now this piece I want to go ahead and put here. Couple reasons. One, I want to get this side in between, and this will go ahead and show you how to go ahead and do that. But also because I want to figure out this door situation. So alright, let's make a measurement here. So we got 2.5. we're going to be trimming just a little bit off this side. Excellent. So once again, we're gonna put that bead of glue down. Now, a lot of times it is easier to go and go wall, 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 and build around in a way that, I guess, in a way that makes sense. But I just want to show you something here. And that is to have two solid walls on each side. So this is 1 3/4. So we are going to do that. We're going to find a piece that's 1 3/4. I want this rough edge to be the top. The nice cut edge to be the bottom. Measure twice, save a life. Okay. So we're going to put that bead of glue down on the bottom. Up in that corner. And then we're going to go up the wall. Up the wall. Then we're just going to slide this into place. Now, the reason I did that was two things. One, because I don't have an inner corner in here. This is an outer corner. So, I'm going to put a bead of glue over on that side. And then one over here. Nice and secure. Now, this doorway, I want to be able to fit a miniature in there, right? So, I need to figure out how big I can make this. So, theoretically, these are two spaces, and one of these spaces should be big enough, right? It's not going to be. So we're going to go in between both. And not by much, though, because we want to fit it in. So I'm just going to go, and I'm going to figure it. Just kind of eyeball it. And yeah, we're going to go 1/4 of an inch. Like I said, nice and slow. Don't make any rough cuts. It's going to get a little rough, but the less pressure and the slower... Oh, this was in the way. I'm sorry. So, we are going to take some chunks out of this. We don't want to take out too much because we don't want to break it. But that's good. And once again, we're going to do what we did on last time. We're going to put the glue directly on this. On the side and on the bottom. All right, we have the frame of our ruined house done. Sort of. This is the base. We got a lot more to do. Sometimes you plan and you end up going a little slower than you expected. We learned a little bit. That's the point. But I'm not unhappy with this. This is good. This is exactly what taking your time does. Taking your time and making changes along the way can really help. Now, the only thing I'm going to do differently next time is we're going to go over... Well, actually, I think we're going to leave this as is. Next time, we're going to work on the tower. Yeah. So, and then once I have both of them finished, then I'll go ahead and do more finishing touches, because that'll be a little bit easier. Getting the base set up is, I guess, a little more time consuming than I thought, than I planned for. But hey, this ruined farmhouse, two entrances, and this is going to have rubble, and this is going to look good when it's done. I have another structure that's similar to this one. That's going to be a ruined inn, and it's going to have a second level on it, and part of a roof. So that one's a little more advanced. We're going to get to that one a different time. In the meantime, thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time on the Lycan DM's Craft. Now, or Lycan DM's Workshop. I named this myself, and I can't say it right. The Lycan DM's Workshop. Thank you. Thursday nights is the Bones and Barbarians campaign, where I stream with some friends of mine, in which I DM. Check us out. Thursday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Right now, we're just doing like an every other week rerun. But, big announcement. June 22nd, Thursday, June 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Episode 1, Season 2. So yeah, big announcement right there. First public announcement. And I hope to see you then. Fridays, every Friday now, I'm streaming on Twitch from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A Baldur's Gate playthrough. So yeah, come play some video games with me. We do a little bit of everything on this channel. So yeah, so I'm trying to fit it in there where maybe on like a Saturday or something, I can also stream another crafting channel or something like that. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so I'll see you then, guys. See you next week. All right. Have a good one.